another session of Dress and Drinks. I'm Leon Wiebers. I am a professor of costume design at Loyola Marymount University and also currently president of Costume Society of America. I want to welcome you to our episode tonight, and to all of our webinars in our series, Conversations on Dress. Should you have any general questions about CSA's digital content, please contact conversationsondress at costumesocietyamerica.com. And so I want to point out that our drinks for tonight are the Commodore cocktail and the Gilded Spritz for the teetotalers in the group. I'm super excited about tonight's guest and to look at some of the fabulous things that are on the docket for us. The Gilded Age is long lauded as an artistically rich period, drawing to mind Warton's literature, the founding of Vogue, and opulent fashions reflective of the time's rapid change. It continues to inspire modern-day media, like HBO's beloved The Gilded Age, cementing its storytelling prowess in history. Perhaps this is what drew Curator Brian Centrone to the Massillon Museum's recent exhibition, Gilding Northeast Ohio. Centrone has always been a storyteller, and he saw fashion history as another way to interpret stories, especially these important ones. With this exhibition, he gets to share the overlooked role Ohio played in the time period. Very exciting. And sharing it and how it sparked sparked just as brightly during the Gilded Age. Its people, fashion, and industries helped to shape the era, the country, and in some cases, the world. With a BA in English from Fordham University, an MA in novel writing from the University of Manchester in the UK, and an MA in costume studies from NYU, Centrone is well versed in living at the crossroads of stories and fashion. His diverse education is reflective of the professional world he now inhabits, as both a guest curator working with a variety of institutions and as an English instructor at SUNY Westchester Community College. While searching out our next guest's curatorial job could be daunting, it no doubt keeps things exciting. With Gilding Northeast Ohio, he lectured at the McKinley Museum, held events with actress Carrie Coon, and participated in panel discussions following a performance of Sleeping Beauty, where the Canton Ballet reproduced Gilded Age costumes. So with that lovely introduction, please welcome Brian Centrone. Come on in, Brian, and join us. Hey, Brian, how are you? It's good to see you.
Hey, Leon, it's good to see you too.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to see this. I have been a fan of The Gilded Age, the TV show, as well as the time period. And I think it's one of those shows, the TV show is one of those shows that you love to hate and you love to love. Um, for any number of reasons. So I can't wait to see what you have in store for us today.
Well, I'll
Um,
show it
do
to
you
you.
have anything you'd like to add to your wonderful bio and your wonderful experience?
I think just that, this exhibition for me was a sort of a thank you to Northeast Ohio, who had always sort of welcomed me in the Mass Museum. And I've had a connection with them for the last 16 years. And they've always been respectful of my work and have involved me in a number of activities and programming. So to be able to sort of come back and sort of do this as this sort of, for me, it really was sort of this personal love letter to Northeast Ohio and everything that they've been able to do to support me over the years.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's awesome. I've spent a little bit of time in Ohio. It's a lovely state. The drive from southwest to northeast is quite long sometimes, but not as long as driving through Montana or Texas also.
That's true.
So, and I grew up in South Dakota, so those Midwestern states, I get it.
You get it. Yeah, it's not a bad trip. And though every time I tell people I'm going to Ohio, they're like, why are you going to Ohio? I'm like, it's great in Ohio.
It is great in Ohio.
Amazing museums, amazing costume exhibitions, and it's very quick to get there from the East Coast. So
Yes, and we've actually held our national symposium there a couple times, and there are other great things. So, all right. Well, with that, it looks like we have a full house, which is great. People want to see the luscious things you have in store for us.
there
So,
are plenty.
why don't we just dive right in?
I thought we would start quickly just with an overview of how the costumes were displayed in the exhibition, and then we will get to the more detailed shots of the garments. So this was the opening section. This was fashion and fortune, and it sort of is set in a reproduction of the entranceway to a Gilded Age mansion in Massillon called Five Oaks that was built by Schweinfurth, who also built homes on Euclid Avenue in Cleveland.
Oh wow,
Uh,
that's lovely.
yes. So the next section was the business and travel section, and this was inspired by J.P. Morgan's personal train car, and it, it was, I
Of
mean,
course.
yeah, of course, as one does, rich velvet. But it was really to see this come to life. Really, for me, was just a I can't even express it. I was like, there's a train car in the gallery.
I mean, I want to say this these two first images are so wonderful. I love this linen walking suit. I'm assuming that's linen. That's just lovely.
It is, and that was on loan from the Western Reserve Historical Society. But it was a perfect fit for this section in this theme. So then we come into opera and opulence, and of course, the HBO gowns prominently on display, with some garments in the opera box above. And so here we have
Oh, fantastic.
additional garments that we'll look at more closely shortly. Um,
The fan is amazing. Look at that. That's awesome.
that fan is so exquisite and it's huge, and they opened it up for me in the storage room, and the first thing I said, I don't want to see any other fans. It's going in. I've I said, I've never seen anything like it. We're done with fans. That's
Fan check.
check. That's it. I mean, could you imagine the woman who opened that up at the opera? I mean, she had something to say.
Yes, yes, I can. Yes, I can.
All right. Well, so after we leave opera and opulence, the next slide will take us into sport and leisure. And this was, I mean, these were where the ideas just really went big. Um, I don't know, not like maybe even a little bit bigger. There's an actual sled that was on loan from the Spring Hill Historic Home and Underground Railroad site. It belonged to the Hess family because sledding was such an important sporting activity in the winter for the wealthy, and
Yeah.
so it had to go. It had to go in. And hot air ballooning was also a personal pastime of the wealthy elite, and so they thought I was crazy when I said let's put a hot air balloon in the gallery, but Canton, Ohio still has a hot air balloon race every summer. So that kind of sealed the deal because it connected with the history and also the current participation in that sporting event.
That's fantastic. Okay, so I have a question about the brown jacket in the background.
Yes.
Um, is that like ribbon trim or what, or is it embroidery? What is
It's
the
braiding.
decorative motif? It's what?
It's braiding.
It's braiding. Okay, great.
And
That's
you'll get to see a close up of it as well.
oh, fantastic. So these are just the teasers you're telling
Just
me.
the teasers so people can see what the galleries look like so they can understand how the garments were situated. So the next slide is our legacy and HBO section. And this is sort of what started the entire process of building the exhibition together. That's the Alice Wade wedding dress, and we'll see details of that shortly. And it's flanked by two costumes that were created for the Gilded Age based on this garment. So you may remember them from season one, which was worn by Kelly O'Hara as Aurora Fane.
Yes, yes.
All right, next slide. Then we move into marriages and families. And that's where we begin to talk about the important sort of power connections that happened during that period, marrying into other families, sometimes not happy marriages, right? But marriages of necessity or marriages of connections. But it was also a really great way to show wedding gowns that are not white
Yes.
and sort of begin to tell that story so people sort of understand the sort of the history of the wedding gown over the last couple of centuries, right?
Yeah.
And then the next slide was devoted to style and design. We'll get to see these up close shortly, but this was a really sort of fun section to do because it was really focused on the extraordinary detailing of the Gilded Age, just how all those accents and those pieces of handwork, needlework, metalwork, right? Just the extraordinary craftsmanship of the period. And that, so being able to display those and watch people sort of take that in really was an incredible experience.
Okay, I have a question about this slide.
Yes,
Is that a collar and cuff set in the in the plexiglass case?
it is, Leon. It
I
is a
don't think
color
I've ever seen a collar and cuff set that has uh for a man
for a man.
that has that little dot work on it. What is the dot work?
You will see it's they're like almost like harlequins. And so will see a close up of it, and they come in that own box, the box that you see behind it. They came in that box, and they were almost in perfect condition. I have to say, I don't think the man wore them that often. They're also very small, so we have this impression that it may have been a gift for a younger man or a young boy because they're very small, and also because of that pattern. So obviously there was something for a special occasion, but they're almost in perfect condition.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So the next slide, which is our last section, is presidents and politics. And this has a variety of gowns, which we're going to look at more closely. But it goes from sort of women in politics to presidential garments in the middle there, and then garments actually worn to the inauguration of William McKinley. And around the corner, not displayed, but we'll see a close up of it, um, is a jacket worn by William McKinley.
Cool.
All right, so we'll get started with the details. The thing that I think everyone wants to see, the dress that started it all, is the Alice Wade Everett House of Worth wedding gown.
Yes, so gorgeous. And I mean, is that looks like is that pearls and chenille embroidery?
Yep. Pearls and chenille, ruching, organza, pleating, and
Oh,
then the textile has this extraordinary pattern on it. And you don't really tell from afar, but the closer you get to it, you get sort of get to see the texture of that fabric and that pattern on it. And it's really, I mean, the thing is exquisite. And what we actually discovered, which a lot of our viewers may find interesting, is that all the pearls are threaded in chenille.
oh wow.
They're not normal threads. The chenille threads.
That's amazing. That is amazing. Oh my God. Well, and you know, it's that sort of early or it's that point when Worth is starting to play with asymmetry as well. And so
Mhm.
that little swoosh going over of the skirt um to offset things, it's just fantastic. It's really great. And the patterning, I mean, it looks like the eye of a peacock feather, only rendered only in you know in cream or peach.
It's very, yes, it's very similar to that. That's a great way to describe it. I mean, it's really just extraordinary. The amount of pearl work on there,
Yeah.
it's beautiful. And this really was what started off the entire exhibition because we knew that this gown was used to create the HBO gowns. So it was the point of focus. And then I worked outward. Um, and this, of course, obviously is courtesy of the Western Reserve Historical Society. And so if we move to the next slide, we'll see some other of my favorites that were must have. This, Leon, this is what I called one of my kills. We had this thing where it's like, which garment would you kill to have in the show?
I was like, you were wandering through the storage with a rifle, and we're like, that one.
I was like, I will murder to have this. This is a Worth day dress, also from the Western Reserve Historical Society. It's a champagne color, but it has this lavender. It almost looks like spider web patterning. It's not.
Oh,
It's a
yes.
weird mix of like spider web, snowflake, pinwheel kind of thing. But the reason why I wanted to show the group of these photos is because what we discovered, Patty Edmondson and I, when we were, she was dressing it, is that the lavender has faded so significantly on the outside of the dress, but there are pockets of it, like on the inside or the folds of the skirt, where you can actually see the full intense color of that purple dye.
Yeah.
And for me, I just think, imagine it in its heyday, where that purple is almost the first thing that you see, right? And of course, she had to open the show. She's front and center.
Yeah.
Because what, I mean, what better dress to convey like conspicuous consumption?
It's really fantastic. I really love the large hook and eye closure that's
Mhm.
actually decorative right at the waist, that you can see. It's a really great way of highlighting the functionality of the dress, and the construction, but not a frog, for example. It's like hook and eye as frog.
Right. And the fact that, you've got that ribbon right underneath it that
Yeah.
goes all the way down. So it's really doing so many things to the wearer, right? It's drawing your attention at the neck for that big bow, but then drawing you right down for height. And it just has this incredible sort of feeling of like movement because of the way sort of the pleating comes in the front, and it's sort of, again, there's another bow that's three-dimensional there. So it's this idea
Oh,
that
yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's always in this sort of movement, right? Um,
Yes.
so it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal.
Oh, and noticing it now, like I've been so focused on the central image, but looking at the full length, that the tail of the bow of the neck ribbon goes all the way down. That's fantastic.
It's fantastic. You can see why I would kill for it.
I don't want to meet you in a dark alley with this dress, Brian. That's all I'm going to say.
No, not at all. So
Two
let's
of
see the
us will emerge, and it may not be you.
no. We'll see the next dress. Now,
Oh,
oh, this is Massillon Museum's collection. This burgundy gown. I mean, the back of that dress, the bustle on it just went for days. I mean, right? Just the epitome of that period, the mandarin collar,
yes.
the voided velvet, the rich burgundy, the lace. I mean, this woman was,
The,
heavenly.
the pin tucking in the little triangular pieces between the voided velvet and the front is just scrumptious.
It's delicious. And though she's extremely fragile. So this will probably be the last time she's on display. She's going to go to bed. I built her a nice bed. When we undressed her, I built her a bed. And she's going to sleep for a while. I mean, that's the heartbreaking thing, right? When you're dealing with Gilded Age fashion, particularly, is some of these silks, as you know, are so fragile.
Yeah.
That
Yes.
it's just, you touch it and you feel like, oh God, it's going to crack at any moment.
Yeah.
Uh, but we protected her very well, and it was her last hurrah. So she was one of our signature images, and I think she went out with a bang.
A good curtain call.
Really good one. So this was one of my other favorites. Leon, when this came out of the storage closet, like storage rack,
This is what I call subtle.
I
Demure,
yes, very demure, very mindful. You know,
modesty, modesty.
she's not doing too much. She's just enough. I I've never have you ever seen anything like that in your
No,
life?
that's
No.
amazing. Like, what? Okay, what?
Yeah, what is going
There's
on? The question.
there's horizontal pin tucking, or are those little tiny ruffles?
No, they're pin tucks. So you've
Okay,
got pin tucks up the sleeve. The
around the neck.
well, the whole bodice, the under bodice, is yes, it's in velvet and pin tucks.
Okay, like, kill me now.
Yeah.
Like,
Hmm.
nobody wants to pin tuck velvet. Like, let's just. And what is this? Like, quarter of an inch pin tuck?
Oh, that's so tiny.
It's
They're
like,
tiny. They're like little ripples in it, and then it's just got all this like extra embellishment and braiding and embroidery on it. And the crosses, the X's in the front and the back, the applique. And I have to tell you, the inside of it has about 100 hook and eyes, and the eyes are all thread.
wow,
So
that's
when you go to
amazing.
open and close it, it's there's hooks and eyes we still didn't figure out what they attach to because every it's like every conceivable part of it has to be fastened for it to stay.
Well, and what I'm like, okay, this is so fascinating. I love the overlay, the applique, whatever that is over the red on the bodice at the above the bust. That's fantastic. And then those like collar pieces, lapels is
Yeah,
what
lapels. Mhm.
wow.
They're
This
extraordinary. And I'm telling you, it came out, and I went, I this,
yeah.
I we have to show this. I've never seen anything like this in my life. People need to know you have this in your collection. Massillon has an amazing collection of garments and additional artifacts. I mean, it spans. There's almost like 34,000 pieces in their collection. The fact
Wow.
the fashion is, oh God, it's thousands of pieces in it. It's really, I think, a resource most people don't realize. I mean, they've got stuff that dates back from Native American heritage all the way up to present day. So it is really a collection not to sort of be missed. So
Yeah.
let's see the next treat.
I have one question before we move on, before
Hmm.
you hit that button. So the is this part of the styling or the mounting, pardon me, part of the mounting of this garment? The arms are so like right angle, they're just so angular, or is that do the sleeves are the sleeves really cut in that sharp of a curve?
Um, so the arms are angled up just to give
Okay.
it more sort of movement, but
Yeah.
it is a heavy material. It's a heavy material. Um, so it does give itself some kind of structure.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's amazing. That's so stunning.
The Pinga, also from Massillon, it when they said, "Oh, we can show you the Pinga," I was like, I'm sorry, the what? Like you what? You just randomly have a Pinga? I mean, who randomly has a Pinga? But they do. And what an extraordinary one it is, this dome and cape. Heavy, Leon. I don't know how the woman who wore it like stood upright. It is heavy. It is heavy. And the detailing on it, the bead work, it's the fringe work. I mean, it's
And
just
is it velvet fringe or chenille fringe again?
it's chenille fringe. It's
Wow. It's
chenille fringe. Yeah, it's chenille fringe, and you've got sort of the metal buttons. Um, the, I can't. I mean, it's just, and it's fully lined in like this. It's not quite a fur, but it's like a almost like a textured velvet, right? It's
wow. Wow. It's very
oh
cozy inside.
yeah, oh yeah. I mean, you weren't. I mean, you were warm in this, and there's so many ways to sort of fasten it to keep that front absolutely solidly closed so the fringe hangs down it, and to sort of make sure that that bustle is angled in such a high position.
So is the base fabric a silk file?
Um,
Because the
you
center image has a little bit of a texture that is reminding me of file, or is
yeah,
it?
I mean, it's definitely silk, so it's probably a silk file.
Oh, wow,
It
nice.
has, it's so, I mean, just to feel it, it's so interesting.
So when I was a younger man, I had a dolman sleeved jacket that I don't know where I got, and I miss that. This would be an apt replacement.
I think it would be. I mean, I think it.
You know, just something around the house.
Yes, just something. And the the other detail shots that we've taken that hopefully people will be able to see one day, really in close up, you get to see how the colors are mixed to get it to look that red. All right, let's see what other treats we have in store. All right, some of my favorites. Now, this day dress, the sleeves, the giggle sleeves, Leon, enormous. That also came out of storage, and it was like sleeves for days. I said, I mean, this is my number one. I will not hear of any other that's going in. How else do you define the end of the Gilded Age? But with enormous sleeves. So stunning. It was one of our signature images. Absolutely beautiful. And then the sleeves just kept coming. We have this wedding bodice. Those sleeves also like I don't even know the the amount of puff.
The sleeve needs its own storage box.
It does. It's so wide when you lay it down on the table to put it back. It's enormous. It's like Dumbo's. It just starts to open up. I love a puff sleeve. So like when I saw these things, I was like, these are extraordinary. Like this is what I mean. Macedonian women. My God, did they know how to dress? Cleveland had a lot of the I mean, really over the top opulent gowns. But Macedonian women, I have to tell you, they were not playing around with their fashion. They knew exactly how to make a statement.
So what was it about Maslin that like brought all of the was it just a center of industry or railroad or
Was
you know
First it was the canals. First it was the canals, but then it was also industrial. A lot of glass was made in Massillon,
oh
um, the quarries, and they also had political ties to Cleveland, and then of course then the rail. So it just became really a sort of a hub of industry, and you had a lot of families, and businesses that sort of to develop in Massillon that made sort of ironwork and steel, and
right.
etc. Everything that sort of the Gilded Age was known for, they produced so much of it.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Fascinating.
yeah. And we have a wedding dress at the end, and we have a picture of the woman who wore it. So I sort of did her hair, and we displayed her in the pose that she took in her photo. And it's interesting because the fabric and it's sort of a lot of these photos are sort of raw images because we sort of took them when we were deinstalling recently, so they haven't been like finally touched up yet. But the fabrication is very similar to the one in the Worth gown.
Yeah.
It's a very similar. So that I found interesting because you see it, you go, oh, this is almost like that's interesting. I wonder if this is sort of like trying to copy that Worth piece, or the fabrication may have come from a similar house or design house that sort of produced it or replica, but it's got an interesting similarity, but not quite as
Yes.
exquisite as the Worth.
Yeah. Fantastic.
All right, what's next on our list of scrumptiousness? I mean, I nothing to me said opera box more than these capes. And there's a mix of Western Reserve and Massillon. The burgundy one is Massillon. That fringe when it moves, I mean,
Oh,
remember catching that in Gaslight or Candlelight? I mean, my goodness. This green again, this rich velvet worn by Annie Otis Sanders. What this woman had taste. She did not spare for anything. I mean, it's extraordinary, that rich velvet. And this shorter cape, the lining, that electric green.
I know, it's wonderful.
Isn't it? You don't expect it, right? I think that's some of the things that I really find interesting about the Gilded Age and sort of being able to sort of get across to viewers is that, we think of the Gilded Age as sort of the sepia colored, right,
Yeah.
period, because we don't see anything in color pictorial wise. Some fashion plates, obviously, but to see the garments in person and to see just how bright and vibrant so many of them were, and the dyes that they used to sort of really create those incredible hues that women would have just shone under in the lighting.
Yes. So this taffeta cape, is
Hmm.
that it looks like the taffeta has been cut into slices, but is it
Kind
just
of.
sort of gathered around so it just is folding in that way with and then with the ends cut
Or
at
like
an angle?
almost both.
Oh.
And so underneath, what you really can't see underneath them is the same green as the inside.
Oh, gotcha.
So they're like hidden in the folds. So like when you move, you get hints of that green. Um, and so, but they're quite, they are spacious in terms of the folds, except they fall interestingly when it's still, and when it moves, you get a lot of the green starts to pop out.
Yeah. Wow, that's just amazing. Really lovely.
Yes,
That green is one of my most favorite colors. I love that color green. And the other thing I love about the way this is shown is that the how the wearer would wear it underneath, so it would be secured and it wouldn't move around with the little cross with the cross straps.
right. Absolutely, and that's I think the amazing thing about looking at the garments from this period is just how fastened in women were to their clothing.
Yeah, yeah,
Right? That
exactly.
you did not it did not move. You were strapped in all the way.
Yeah,
Uh, and the hat was added to it. It does not go with the cape originally, but it was added for display purposes. But it didn't originally come with the cape. So our next slide is the first of two Maison Philippe gowns in the show. This one is also from Western Reserve. And the detailing on it, the fabrication is just extraordinary, absolutely extraordinary. The way it hits the light is I can't I
this is just absolutely stunning. I mean, seriously, I went off camera for a second, and this is what you came back with? Fine. I mean, the peplums on the bodice and the high collar, um, navy satin bows. That's just gorgeous. That's really fantastic.
it's absolutely stunning. I mean, and really to explore the textile, it's almost entrancing. You really sort of look at it in person and you're like, how did they do this? How
So
is this?
again, is like that are those little is that chenille woven into the satin?
I think it may be. I
Wow,
think it may be. I think it may be woven into the fabric. Extraordinary.
it's
Extra-
really
and,
lovely.
yeah, and that's only the first of two Maison Feliques in the show. So let's see what else goodies we have in store for our viewers. This is the second Maison Feliques. So we have them at both ends of the period. And this was worn to the inauguration of William McKinley. And
Wow.
um, when this came off the rack and I saw the bows and the pearl work, I said that's the one because there were three gowns Western Reserve has that were worn to the inauguration of President McKinley. But this one by far was my absolute favorite. Look at the draping on the sleeve.
I
I mean,
know.
I mean, how gorgeous! And just that, their velvet bows and all that beadwork, that purling, and just, I mean, it's so beautiful. It's so simple, in its skirt, but then it just has this massive. This woman danced all night in this, and we paired it with a actual dance card from the McKinley inauguration. Yeah, that's in the collection of the Massillon Museum. It still has its pencil. Still has its pencil. So
Fantastic, fantastic.
make your notes. You make your notes at the end. But I love it. So, I wanted everyone to see the close up of that train. Just exquisite. Just
Oh, and
exquisite.
that satin just looks absolutely luscious.
It
It's
it is. Oh my God, is it? And it goes for days. I could just, sweeping through the Capitol on that. I mean, you know, that's let's.
well, you'll be here in a few months here at LMU. So just, see if they'll loan it to you. We have a very large building, and so you can just sweep right down the corridor.
Sweep right through it. That would be the dress to do it in. All right, so let's see what's next on the agenda. Well, I am a menswear historian,
Mm.
Leon. One of the true treasures of curating this exhibition was to be able to put menswear in the show. And every section has menswear, at least one piece, if not more. This also in the collection of the Western Reserve, the metalwork
Oh yeah.
on this belonged to Mr. Mather. Um, I mean, it's extraordinary. It's extraordinary.
It's really stunning. It's really, really beautiful. I as we started this talking about the TV show, The Gilded Age, the menswear in that show is quite fine. It's
Yes,
some of the best menswear on television.
yes, yes. And Patrick Wiley, who worked on the show, he was in charge principally of the menswear. And so, he really sort of made sure that it was um, to a T, because tailoring is the key to menswear. So
Yeah.
that's one of them. Let's see another piece of fantastic menswear that I love. Um, this, I mean, this is President Garfield's at home robe. Just, gorgeous quilting. The man was 6 feet tall, so pretty tall for that period. And I mean,
The color on the inside is amazing.
yes, yes, that wine color. I mean, it's really just absolutely gorgeous. We do think that this may have been made by Shobi.
Mm.
It sort of doesn't have an attribution to it, but I was at a lecture at NYU, and one of the students was doing his thesis research on Shobi. And when they popped up on the screen, I said, "That's Garfield. That's exactly." So we think it actually maybe it has so many of the attributes of a Shobi garment, and it would make sense. It probably would have been a gift, right? It probably would have been gifted to him.
Yeah.
Um, it is one of my favorite absolute pieces. Um, so I mean, it's so rare that we actually get to see sort of private garments, right, at home stuff.
Yeah.
And this one is a version of that.
Really lovely.
Hmm. So let's see what we've got. I think some more menswear coming. So here are additional pieces that Western Reserve lent us. We have a tuxedo from Jephthah Wade, who was Alice Wade's brother. He got married shortly before her. They got married back to back. She married, I think, their financial advisor, their accountant. She didn't really want to marry him. He was like 40 years older than her, I believe. And so the trade-off was you have to marry him, but she got the Worth wedding dress. So, it's a, I mean, it's a good,
Oh darn.
yeah, just, it's like, could you imagine though, a woman in that power, like, well, if I have to marry this man, um, I'm getting married in a Worth. So it's a good trade-off, I think. Um, so the suit in the middle was actually worn by William McKinley's cousin to the inauguration.
Mm.
And the third is a livery suit, the Devereux's coachman outfit from the Cleveland Devereuxs. All three tailored in Cleveland, I believe. They're all from Cleveland tailors,
Wow.
not mistaken.
That's amazing.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful work. Beautiful work.
Beautiful work.
Yeah, I
Really
think
love.
a bit more menswear because I do love a good menswear outfit. So our next slide here, some of my faves from the
Mhm.
Massillon collection. This tuxedo has gorgeous rickracking on the waistcoat. This belonged to Mr. Hoover, who started the vacuum company. This was his wedding suit. It's actually from 1904, so it was a couple of years past our dating, but it had to be included because it was just a specific specimen of tailoring and engineering for menswear. We have a frock coat uh, and a wedding frock coat. And the thing that I love about, a lot of times, when we talk about menswear and we talk about displaying menswear, it's like, well, it's just a bunch of black suiting, right? Or black frock coats. And yes, that's true, but you have to look for those subtle differences and the collars and the lapels. If it's a waistcoat, those are the things. And both of these have these gorgeous button work on two very different styled lapels. And so they're just, I mean, really for menswear, they're just absolutely fantastic. And we had a three-piece suit with a cutaway frock coat that just was, I mean, you could see the man, he did business in that suit. He was a
Yeah.
mover, he was a shaker. Um, absolutely perfect. These gentlemen were, I mean, impeccably dressed.
Well, and what's so difficult to get done in good tailoring is the roll of the lapel, that
Hmm.
finish of that. And so that center image where you get to see that very gentle roll of the lapel going over with that black satin is just fantastic. It's really beautiful. And the same um, with the first image, as the roll continues all the way down to the waist and just gently finishes in its point. It's really, there's absolutely stunning.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Next up, let's see who we have. Some more men's. I think this is the end of our men, sadly. But uh, so we have a linen suit. He's got a waistcoat under there. The trousers I didn't dress him in because he went in the hot air balloon, so you couldn't see his trousers. I thought, thank God, right? Because anyone who's tried to dress a male mannequin, if you don't have a dress a trouser, it's you've cut like you've added a couple years to your life, right?
Yeah, yeah,
But a lovely linen weight suit, a fantastic, fantastic. And the thing that I love the most of all is you've got this entire waistcoat, gorgeous waistcoat. No one ever sees it. It's under there. I dressed it. It's under there. But the only one who knows it's under there is me and this man,
yeah,
right? That's the interesting thing about menswear. There's so many hidden uh, parts.
yeah.
We have this bicycle outfit, full on bicycle outfit, high wheeler bicycle, came with two pairs of socks, one for winter, one for spring. Um,
Because your ankles get cold.
oh yes, they're heavy wool. And he's got the little cap, and Massillon also has a high wheel bicycle. Um, he was discovered late in the period. If he had been discovered a little bit earlier in the curatorial period, I would have had the bicycle brought down. But you can see the bicycle. It's upstairs in their history gallery. I mean, the menswear that they were pulling out of storage for me. It's like, look, we found an entire bicycle outfit. I love it. I love it. And the last piece, of course, is William McKinley's um, a jacket, and that was from Brooks Brothers. So an amazing.
Lovely.
And speaking of McKinley, this is Ida McKinley's wedding corset.
Wow.
This is
Lovely.
what she wore to marry the president before he was the president. So yeah, just a gorgeous piece.
Really beautiful. Really beautiful.
Hmm. Just stunning.
Amazing.
Yeah. So next we have one of my absolute favorites, this walking suit. It's actually two separate pieces. The skirt is different from the top. Um, but the top is just extraordinary. The lapels are so wide and pointed. You've got the large go sleeve. You've got that little sort of kick of a peplum almost.
I know.
And the waist is 18 inches.
She did a lot of walking then.
Yes, she walked her way to an 18-inch waist.
She got her steps in.
She 10,000 a day. She had a little parasol, her boots. She was ready to take on. She was a new woman on the move. She stayed fit and trim. Just it's
Really
absolutely
beautiful.
stunning piece.
I
Um,
love I love the collar that swoops around the back of that. That's just
isn't
really
that fabulous?
yeah.
This woman had, I mean, also whoever designed this, whoever she worked with, I mean, they really, it was like sort of like let's make an impression because that collar, it's like almost like bat wings. Every time I look at it, I think like the
Yeah.
bats, and Dr. Tamika Ellington was great enough to actually, she wrote the book on textures and she had the exhibition at Kent State, right? She designed the hair for this for us. So it was just an amazing sort of collaboration on that, and one of my favorite pieces, absolutely,
Yeah, it's really beautiful. Simple and beautiful.
and impactful.
Yeah.
This woman wanted to be seen. Some of my favorites, one of the things when creating the show was about getting the pieces with the details, right, and sort of showing that those pieces of craftsmanship. So we have this gorgeous opera dress at the top that Weston Reserve lent us. And then these other pieces are from the Masson collection, and they're just so elegant. The sleeve on this gray dress, I mean, I can't, and it has this wire work. It's sort of like the silk wrapped around the wire, and it sort of goes up the bodice. Um, Oh my God, and the black dress on the side, which I absolutely love. It's got applique and it's got, you know, pleating and it's got a sort of this sort of organza, just or I think it's gauze. It's just I,
It's really lovely. And on the gray dress on the skirt, on the top of the skirt, is that smocking?
it's fringe.
It's fringe.
Yep, she's got a row of fringe. And so there's this sort of cute little movement that goes on in it. It's really, yeah, and you've got that gorgeous collar. I could just see it sort of a young woman,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
prancing around Massillon in that. The middle dress is actually a wedding dress. Um, and it's interesting because there's some debate whether it's black or gray. It photographs black when it came into the museum. There was a newspaper article that said it was a black dress that was donated. It looks sort of a steely gray. I'm not quite sure if maybe some of the dye has sort of faded a bit, and that's why it looks grayish. But it's got this lavender accent. There's some thought that I've had that perhaps it was a dress worn for half mourning. Because of that color
Yeah.
combination, that sort of
Yeah.
gray lavender combination that's more common for morning wear. But it's a really beautiful piece, and again with sort of all those sort of pleating and tucking and
Yeah,
fold.
it's really amazing. And then the folding over of it and all it's really great using that.
It's
Um
great. Um, the next one, just some gorgeousness. Here is a Worth cape, absolutely stunning, from the Western Reserve. Really beautiful, catches the light. We'll move to another slide.
that
Some of my
velvet
favorite.
pattern is amazing. Oh my gosh, that's stunning.
Just this dress, made from a New York dressmaker, from every angle, every absolute angle. It's something to behold. So absolutely beautiful. The next one, we'll move on. So here's that
Look at
braiding
that.
work on that brown bodice. It's paired with a skirt that didn't originally come with it. But you see some other hues. There's a French dress in the middle with a minty green
Oh
bodice.
yeah.
It's a mint green that goes through the folds in the front of the skirt. And then there's this gorgeous orange and black. What became a wedding dress, it was redesigned. It was originally an 1860s garment, and it was recut for the late 19th century as to be used. I think originally it might have been a wedding dress, and it was reused as something else.
Mm, mm.
Absolutely gorgeous.
Really beautiful. I love that copper and green together. That's amazing.
Yes, absolutely. And so the next one, just a few coats. This gorgeous Western Reserve, and it had this gorgeous metallic thing, and it has this inner vest so to keep you extra warm. Um, and then this green thing, I can't like on the hanger. I was like, "What is that?" And then it just came to life, and I thought, "How would you not just right. How would you
Yeah,
not? How would you
yeah,
not? Yeah.
really lovely.
Yeah, and I think there's one or two others. So yeah, we're getting towards the. So we have Kent lent us this gorgeous wedding dress from Lucy Sackett Ailing. She also married someone like 40 years older than her. And the middle dress is actually Lucretia Garfield's night dress. So her and her husband are reunited in their evening wear. And this was a dress designed by Mrs. Jellyman, who was a dressmaker in Massillon. So it's a really interesting piece sort of to study. And I
Yeah.
think there's one more. Right. So here you have those accessories. Again, we have sort of some coats and capes of texture, all from Massillon. This interesting hat with jet and sort of wax flower. Actually, I think they're a material. I think they're
Wow.
interesting material. And again, a close up of those collar and cuffs.
Oh my gosh, those are so amazing.
They're
And they're
really
so whimsical. It's like I love those. I've
really
never
cool.
seen anything like that. Those are really wonderful.
I think this is the last one. If we right, I could. Yep, this is the last one. A little boy's waistcoat. Just, I mean, the little hand stitching in the design, exquisite. We have a pith helmet, that was brought back, from travels. This sort of wire cage bustle, and this gorgeous bodice that Western Reserve lent us. Again, with exquisite sort of braid work and applique of sort of fabric on fabric. So
Yeah, it's really, really stunning. That's amazing. Um, Brian, thank you so much. This is fantastic. First question is there a book to go with this exhibition?
there is not a book. There was little time to do one. I'm hoping that we can get a book done. I keep bringing it up, but there's currently not a catalog. But I'm crossing my fingers because we have enough of the images, we have the didactics, we have, there's enough to create a book, and so it's on my bucket list.
Nice, excellent. Tell us about the kinds of changes, if any, that were needed to modify the mannequins used in the exhibit.
That's a really great question. There was a lot of carving that happened. There was a lot of carving. We used Dorfmans, we used Mannix, because they're both sort of easier to sort of cut into. The men have to be shaved quite significantly, and some of the women have to be shaved and shaved and shaved. Because they have these. Most of the women had about 21, 22-inch waist.
Wow.
So there was a lot of mannequin carving that went into it.
Although I did notice in one of the early slides where there were sort of normal sized humans
Yeah.
as well. There was a couple of women's dresses that were, pretty average sized. And even the jacket, the summer suit that you had
Hmm.
looked like it was sort of a normal size or a size of not a tiny little person.
Yeah.
So
Couple pieces that fit like the mannequins beautifully. The men's jackets fit. So it was a nice sort of range of sort of what would have been a normal size, and then something a little bit smaller. But a lot of the mannequins did have to.
nice, yeah. And what's next up?
For me, or
Yeah,
I'm currently looking for my next curatorial project. So if anyone is interested, please contact me. I do have some ideas that I'm hoping to be able to sort of, facilitate. But I have also begun talking with Maslin about a possible 2027
nice,
exhibition as a follow up.
excellent. Um, Brian, thank you so much. This was beautiful and scrumptious and actually Gilded Age costumes. Um,
Absolutely. Listen, it was my absolute pleasure. I'm really glad I got to share. these collections with you. Massillon is a fantastic museum. Everyone, please go check them out. The Western Reserve Historical Society was an amazing lending partner. And Ohio has a very rich history, and so that was the whole point of the show, is to sort of bring attention to a region we often forget when we're talking about the Gilded Age.
Well, now I need to know more about those collections in Ohio because we are starting to line up our D&D partners for next year. So I think it's time to reach out to Western Reserve and see what treasures they behold. So you're on notice if you're out there.
Absolutely, and so many treasures, just wonderful collections.
So excellent. Brian, thank you so much for this. It's been just a joy to see these things and to chat with you this evening. And again, everyone, thank you for coming today. It's been such a great pleasure to have you here. Please thank Brian for his time, and thank you for attending. Please follow the Costume Society of America on Facebook and Instagram to make sure that you hear about all of our upcoming episodes in our Conversations on Dress series. Lastly, if you enjoyed today's content, we implore you to make a small or very large donation to keep the content free for all.